everybody, and welcome to what I'm going to call a cabin fever video. It is snowing again, and this month pretty much it's either been snowing or it's been like 7 degrees below zero, like at all times. So I haven't been out and about very much, but I've been working at home, and I just thought we would just do another fun little kind of research video. We'll talk about coffee mugs again. I've been drinking a lot of coffee, just sitting here at home, trying to stay warm. And we're going to talk about a niche or a niche that maybe we haven't quite addressed in the last few videos, but it's kind of a fun one. And we're going to go over to the computer, and you'll be able to see right away kind of what the general idea about this category is. Now, this category covers just some bread and butter, coffee mugs, but then the value of some of the mugs might actually end up surprising you. When we head over to the computer, we're going to start with one of my sales from a couple of years ago, and that can kind of give you a hint right away what's the kind of category of mugs that we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so here's one of my sales from February of 2023. And as you can see, it's a vintage IBM logo coffee mug, and it said internal use only around the bottom, and I sold that mug for $40. So yes, we are talking about vintage computer, vintage technology, video game. I was trying to think of a general term for this category of coffee mug, and what popped into my head was the aesthetic nerdcore that usually has more to do with how people are dressing, but I just thought I'd throw that out there for this category as well. So anyway, let's pop over to eBay. We're going to look at the last, within the last 90 days, some of the better sales in these categories. And this is just like a sampling of all the different kinds of mugs in this category that have sold in the last 90 days. So we pop over, and the first one we see for $44.99, and I did check these prices on Terapeak to make sure that they were accurate. This is a vintage unused IBM OS2 mug, sold for $45. So an older operating system, IBM, super fun stuff. Again, these are things that I think, estate sales, these show up. I've sold vintage technology mugs that I have found at thrift stores. A lot of these mugs were just given to office workers, were given away by salesmen, things like that, kind of similar to the pharmaceutical mugs that we've talked about in the past. So sometimes people just have these mugs laying around. They have them at home in their offices. They put pens in them. They put whatever. So keep your eyes open. Next one is a vintage Compaq Computers coffee mug. This one sold for $40. And again, something you could maybe just see on the shelf at a thrift store, and you might want to think twice, do a search, look it up, do a Google search, whatever. Now, the high-priced vintage coffee mugs are definitely dominated by Apple. So definitely 80s, 90s, vintage Apple computers, Macintosh, any of those coffee mugs. And as a side note for resellers, also any vintage Apple computer products, posters, anything like that you want to take a second look at is definitely going to be worth flipping. But this Apple 1980s Apple computer mug, Steve Jobs Computing Rainbow, old logo, sold for that asking price of $49.99. Here's another Apple computer. It's Next. It's a glass coffee mug with an etched logo. It says it was a promo coffee cup. And at auction, it ended at $58.65. Here's another early Apple computer mug. It says early 80s. It's by Papel. I don't even know how you say that, but a lot of vintage coffee mugs. Big coffee mug company, Papel. But definitely this is good because of the Apple computer subject on it. So it will depend on the subject. That auction, there was one bid, sold for $51. Here's another computer mug, Cray Research Supercomputers, vintage mug, technical operations. Again, stuff like this you sometimes see on the shelves at thrift stores. $49.99 is what this one sold for. So again, keep your eyes open. Just had an old sticker on the bottom, no other markings. Okay, so here's a Microsoft mug that sold for $60. It's Microsoft Pixel Art Idea Light Bulb Icon Logo Coffee Mug. Sold for that full asking price of $60. Then Silicon Graphics Computer Systems. Sometimes things, if you're in the computer world, you're going to know about some of these names and words and stuff like this. This one still sold for $66, and it does look like, unless it's the lighting, some of the gold has worn away. But 2 bids on that one for $66. Some of these things might not mean anything to you when you see them at the thrift store. But if it's computer related or technology related, it might be worth taking a second look. Sometimes the computer technology stuff is also connected to military, and so there's kind of a crossover there as well. Here's a fun vintage Apple logo computer mug. It says logo in a spider web, and it says it's rare. When I went to Terapeak in the last 3 years, this was the only one that had sold. So it has a very modern look to me. It does say made in the USA. So yeah, probably a little bit older. But anyway, that one sold for $95, that full asking price. Then we have this Apple computer, the Power to Be Your Best, from the 80s, 90s, whatever. Very understated, right? Very simple, no big logo, anything like that. But look for those little apples. This one did sell for $75 on best offer. And then we have this vintage Apple Computers 1990 Worldwide Developers Conference coffee mug. Again, something you might not look twice at, but I'm urging you to look twice at the coffee mugs. One bid, this sold for $95. And then we're getting even higher. This is a 1983. I mean, you gotta love it when the mug has the date on it, right? But this kind of Stein-shaped mug, Mac Apple Computers Service and Support mug, sold for $199. It was an auction and it got one bid, and that's really all it takes. And then the highest one in the last 90 days was this vintage Atari 2600 video game console computer mug. It got 16 bids and it went up to $427.99. Here's a picture of what the other side looked like. It had something to do with NBC. It says an NBC employee mug. Maybe not something you're going to run across every single day, but think of the potential, okay? We're going to pop over, and I decided to check a couple of the other, one other video game brand, Nintendo. I just did a quick vintage Nintendo mug search. We've got a $95 for this Pokemon Christmas mug from 2001. A plastic Super Mario Brothers from 1989 sold for $75. Here was this whole big Nintendo Game Boy watch with ceramic heat change mug. And then there was a few of these glass Super Mario 2 mugs that I just wanted to bring to your attention. So all kind of selling right around that same price. Again, kind of that bread and butter, $25 to $30, but worth taking a look at. Then if we won't go over, I decided to also look at different Star Wars, Star Trek, more nerdcore. You could go on and on. You could look up, I don't know, Lord of the Rings. You could look up, I don't know, they're escaping me at the moment, but just other different series like that or things like that that people really get into and see what's in solds. Like I've always said in these videos, these are the starting point of your research. So it's just kind of whetting your appetite, giving you an idea of some of the potential of some of the things that are out there right now. Now, the Star Wars mugs, the top sellers in this have to do with the artist Jim Rumpf. Now, Jim Rumpf is a name that is good to keep an eye out for because he is known for like a studio pottery ugly face mugs. That's like a whole nother category we'll talk about someday, but his is a good name to file away in the back of your head. But he did a series of Star Wars mugs. So the Darth Vader one seems to be the most popular. It's kind of right up here at the top fairly often. But as you can see, he did an Obi-Wan, and that's more the style, the pottery style that I'm kind of used to. A Chewbacca mug for $70. Again, I didn't go through and double check all these prices, so some of them might have sold at a best offer at a different price. Another Chewbacca, but you can see the Jim Rumpf ones pretty much are all at the top for the Star Wars mugs. We've got, looks like little plastic kids plates and mugs from 1983, sold for $48. We have a lot of 4. Those are from Australia. And then we're back to the Rumpf. And then here's a fun little 1970s R2-D2 ceramic mug for $55. So again, like I said, it's your starting point and go from there. Aw, cute little Ewok mug by Sigma Taste Setters. Okay, $40 for that one. So then I popped over to Star Trek mugs, because of course we have to be fair. So vintage Star Trek mugs. Faltzgraf did some Star Trek dinnerware. So someone sold the Star Trek plate, cup, and saucer and mug, brand new for $129.99. Applause did the figural mugs. Someone sold a whole big set. It's like Next Generation and stuff like that for $89. We're going to talk about this travel mug in a second. We have a Gorn mug by Applause, sold for $45. Here's another figural mug, Cisco. So here's one of those Faltzgraf mugs. This was a new one, and it's for Star Trek 6, it looks like. Anyway, $39.99. And here's another one, $44.97. Here's a different style for Deep Space Nine, $35. Okay, so let's talk about that travel mug for a second. I almost had a heart attack on this one because you guys know this is kind of a style of mug that we like to pick up and like to sell. And I was like, did we sell this not knowing that it has this movie connection or TV show connection to Deep Space Nine? And I was like, it's all possible. So I looked up the Feltman Langer mugs that we've sold, and none of them were like this, unless we sold one like this that it wasn't marked. We didn't know what it was. So I am learning here myself too. So let's look at the description and see what they had to say about the connection to Deep Space Nine. It says, many collectors, several reputable websites claim that the Rectagino mugs, don't come at me, you Trekkies, I don't know how to pronounce that, Deep Space Nine were Hot Joe branded mugs manufactured by Highwave, but this is not actually the case. It says the crooked handle Rectagino mugs were designed and patented by the Feltman Langer Company, have long been out of production. They've become rare, hard to find. Because the crooked handle made them so distinctive, it was also prone to breakage. Okay, so that's the story. So people might list it as Hot Joe is what I'm thinking. Maybe sometimes the lid gets replaced with a Hot Joe lid or something like that. I could see that happening as well. Anyway, that mug looks so familiar. I have a feeling we sold it, but I had no idea there was any kind of Deep Space Nine connection. So I'm going to keep that in mind and be on the lookout for that one. Okay, so like I said, that was just going to be short and sweet, just some fun little research that I felt like doing today. Of course, research always makes me antsy to go out to the thrift store, but I think I'll be home for a day or two. I don't know. We'll see if we can get out of the house again. Anyway, I just hope you guys are doing great. Let me know if, with all the coffee mug sales or videos that we've talked about lately, if there's any fun ones that you have found lately that you've been able to flip for a profit. I've had fun reading the comments on some of the other videos because people are like, oh, I have that mug. I had no idea it was worth so much. And then they're like, I'm gonna list it, right? So that's always fun. I'm going to leave you a picture of the current state of my picnic table. As you can see how much snow we have gotten over the course of this month. We have been kind of spoiled, I guess. I mean, if you love snow, then people have been disappointed the last few years in Montana. We haven't had a ton of it. But this year is definitely living up to all its expectations. So anyway, it'll be spring soon. Hopefully you guys are staying warm and have better weather in your neck of the woods. And I will talk to you later on this week.